What if I told you that Amish farmers routinely double their harvests without spending a penny on expensive chemicals? While modern farmers struggle with skyrocketing fertilizer costs, the Amish are quietly growing twice the food using 20 common plants that most gardeners overlook or even pull as weeds. Clover to boost the soil. Have you ever wondered how some farmers manage to grow incredible harvests year after year without emptying their wallets on expensive fertilizers? The answer might be right under your feet. Clover, that humble little plant with 3 or 4 leaves, is one of nature's most powerful soil enhancers, and the Amish have been using it for generations. When you visit an Amish farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, you'll notice something interesting between their crop rows. Those patches of small green plants with rounded leaves aren't weeds. They're intentionally planted clover. This isn't just tradition, it's backed by science. Clover has a special relationship with bacteria in its roots that allows it to pull nitrogen right out of the air and lock it into the soil. It's like having a free fertilizer factory running 24/7. Our grandfathers taught us that good soil makes good food, says one Amish farmer who has been working the same land for over 40 years. And clover makes good soil. What makes this approach so brilliant is its simplicity. While modern industrial farms spend thousands on nitrogen fertilizers, Amish communities save that money by letting clover do the work naturally. A single acre of clover can add up to 200 pounds of nitrogen to the soil each year. That's worth about $100 in commercial fertilizer. The Amish plant clover between crop rotations or alongside their main crops. During the off-season, fields aren't left bare. They're covered with this green manure that constantly improves the soil. When it's time to plant again, they either till the clover under or simply plant right alongside it. And there's another benefit the Amish have observed over decades of farming. Clover's deep roots break up compacted soil, allowing water to penetrate more easily. This means less irrigation and better drought resistance. One particularly dry summer, an Amish farmer noted that his clover-enriched fields stayed productive while neighboring conventional farms struggled. If you're thinking about trying this at home, you're in luck. Clover seeds are inexpensive and easy to plant. Just scatter them over your garden in early spring or fall, lightly rake them in, and keep the soil moist until they sprout. Horseradish to fight underground pests. Walk through an Amish vegetable garden in early summer, and you might spot tall, leafy plants with crinkled leaves growing near the potato patch. Those aren't random weeds. They're strategically placed horseradish plants, silently protecting the potatoes from underground invaders. The strong smell we associate with horseradish doesn't just clear our sinuses, it drives away potato beetles, nematodes, and other soil-dwelling pests that can destroy crops. The Amish figured this out long before modern science confirmed it. Horseradish contains natural compounds called glucosinolates that act as natural pesticides when released into the soil. An amusing story circulates among Amish communities about a farmer named Eli who planted horseradish around his entire potato field. His English, non-Amish neighbor laughed at him for wasting space on that pungent stuff. Come harvest time, Eli's potatoes were pristine while his neighbors were riddled with beetle damage. As the Amish saying goes, the loudest laugh comes after the harvest. But the benefits don't stop at pest control. Did you know that a single horseradish plant can live for over 20 years if well maintained? That's why you'll often see these perennial guardians standing sentinel in the same spots in Amish gardens decade after decade. The Amish communities across Ohio and Indiana have developed specific planting patterns for horseradish. They typically place plants about 3 feet apart around the perimeter of vulnerable crops. Some farmers even create what they call a horseradish highway, a row that cuts through the middle of larger fields, creating a protective barrier that cuts pest populations in half. In recent years, agricultural scientists have begun studying these traditional methods. Research from Purdue University found that potato fields with horseradish borders had 60% fewer Colorado potato beetles compared to unprotected fields. That's a significant reduction without spraying a single chemical. Beyond the garden, horseradish roots become a valuable product themselves. Amish families grate the roots to make their famous horseradish sauce, a staple at community gatherings and a perfect example of a dual-purpose plant. The only product we'll ever promote on our channel is a book by Claude Davis, a veteran prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation methods from crisis times like the Great Depression and wartime that are impossible to find elsewhere. We decided to promote his book because we are the last generation able to share these techniques and superfoods to our children or grandchildren. It would be a shame to see this information about highly nutritious foods and preservation methods to survive crises disappear. You can also find a book about herbal remedies from Nicole Apelian on their store. If you're watching this on TV, you can look up our channel, Frugal Solutions, on your phone or tablet and find the books by clicking the link in our channel description or any other video description. Basil to repel mosquitoes. Summer evenings on an Amish farm aren't spent swatting mosquitoes or dousing in chemical repellents. Instead, you'll find basil plants strategically positioned near outdoor gathering spaces and vegetable gardens. This isn't just for easy access when cooking, it's a time-tested mosquito management strategy. The aromatic oils in basil leaves naturally repel mosquitoes and several other flying pests. These compounds, primarily eugenol, citronellol, and limonene, confuse insects' sensitive receptors, making it harder for them to locate their human targets. Many commercial repellents actually synthesize these same compounds, but the Amish get them straight from the source. My grandmother always said if you want to sit outside in summer, sit near the basil, whose family has been farming the same way for 6 generations. Her garden includes several varieties of basil scattered throughout, with extra plants near the porch and outdoor wash area. This approach to pest management reflects the Amish philosophy of working with nature rather than against it. While their English neighbors might reach for spray cans of repellent, Amish communities plant natural solutions. A patch of basil near tomatoes doesn't just keep mosquitoes away from people, it also protects the tomato plants from hornworms and fruit flies. Talk about efficiency. What's particularly interesting is how the Amish have developed their own basil varieties over generations. Through careful seed saving, many communities now grow what they call strong basil, plants with particularly potent oils that offer enhanced protection. These heirloom varieties are passed down through families and shared throughout the community. If you're skeptical about basil's mosquito-repelling power, consider this surprising fact. Researchers at Iowa State University found that concentrated basil oil was nearly as effective as DT in repelling mosquitoes for up to 2 hours. The study, which shocked many conventional gardeners, simply confirmed what the Amish have known for generations: Comfrey to supercharge the soil. Deep in the heart of Ohio's Amish country, you'll find a plant that looks rather ordinary but performs extraordinary feats beneath the soil. Comfrey might not win any beauty contests with its rough, hairy leaves, but Amish farmers prize it as their secret weapon for soil improvement. Unlike most garden plants with shallow roots, Comfrey sends its roots down 10 feet or more into the subsoil. This makes it a natural mining operation, pulling up nutrients that would otherwise remain locked away far below the reach of regular crops. The deep-diving roots bring up potassium, phosphorus, calcium, and other minerals that vegetables desperately need. The incredible thing about Comfrey is how quickly it grows. You can cut it back to the ground 5 or 6 times a year, and each time it produces huge leaves packed with nutrients. Amish farmers call these cuttings green gold because they're worth their weight in fertilizer. One elderly Amish gardener demonstrated how he chops comfrey leaves and places them around tomato plants as a nutrient-rich mulch. The plant pulls treasures from deep down, he explained while working. Then we cut it and let those treasures feed our food plants. Nothing goes to waste in God's garden. Researchers who've studied this traditional practice found that comfrey leaves contain more potassium than farmyard manure and more nitrogen than many commercial fertilizers. When the leaves break down, they release these nutrients slowly, exactly when growing plants need them most. The Amish method of growing comfrey is surprisingly simple. They plant it once in corners of the garden or field edges, and it returns year after year without replanting. Many families have comfrey patches that have been growing for decades, faithfully mining soil nutrients each season. But there's one warning the Amish always share about comfrey. Once planted, it's there to stay. Its deep roots make it nearly impossible to remove completely. Choose your spot carefully, goes the Amish advice, because your grandchildren will be working around that same comfrey plant. Marigolds to zap garden pests. The brilliant orange and yellow flowers dotting Amish gardens aren't just there to look pretty. Those marigolds are working hard as natural pest control, protecting valuable food crops from destructive insects. Most garden pests find the strong scent of marigolds absolutely repulsive. The Amish discovered generations ago that planting marigolds around the borders of vegetable gardens creates an invisible barrier that many destructive insects won't cross. The flowers release compounds through their roots that are particularly effective against nematodes, microscopic worms that attack plant roots and can devastate entire crops. Scientists at the University of Wisconsin recently confirmed what the Amish have known for decades. Soil where marigolds have grown shows up to a 90% reduction in harmful nematode populations. That's better protection than many chemical treatments provide. Around Lancaster County, Marigold Planting Day is almost a community celebration. Families work together placing these protective flowers around vegetable gardens, along fence lines, and between rows of susceptible crops. Children often take responsibility for collecting marigold seeds in the fall, carefully drying and storing them for the next growing season. The best part about the Amish marigold strategy is that it provides multiple benefits. While repelling bad insects, marigolds simultaneously attract beneficial ones like ladybugs and pollinators. More pollinators mean better fruit set on vegetables, which leads directly to higher yields. A humorous saying among older Amish gardeners compares marigolds to an overzealous watchdog. They'll chase away even welcome visitors if you plant too many. This refers to how excessive marigolds can sometimes repel beneficial insects too. A reminder that even natural solutions require balance. Unlike synthetic pesticides that lose effectiveness over time as insects develop resistance, marigolds maintain their protective qualities generation after generation. This reliability explains why you'll see these bright flowers in virtually every Amish garden from Ohio to Pennsylvania. Beans to power up soil fertility. The humble bean might seem like just another vegetable, but in Amish agriculture, it's a powerful tool for creating richer soil naturally. Bean plants perform a kind of agricultural magic. They can pull nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form plants can use. This remarkable ability comes from a partnership beans form with beneficial bacteria in the soil. These bacteria create nodules on the roots where they capture nitrogen from the air and transform it into natural fertilizer. After harvesting beans, Amish farmers often chop the remaining plant material and till it into the soil, leaving behind nitrogen-rich organic matter for the next crop. In the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, Amish farmers plant beans in careful rotation with corn and other nitrogen-hungry crops. A typical field might grow corn one year, beans the next, then wheat or another grain. This pattern keeps soil naturally fertile without expensive chemical fertilizers. The traditional Three Sisters planting, combining beans, corn, and squash together, remains popular in many Amish communities. Corn provides a natural pole for beans to climb, beans fertilize the soil for all three plants, and squash spreads across the ground to suppress weeds. This companion planting method can yield up to 20% more food from the same space compared to growing the plants separately. A study from Pennsylvania State University found that fields using bean rotations required 45% less synthetic nitrogen fertilizer while maintaining equivalent yields. For the Amish, who prefer to avoid chemicals whenever possible, this natural fertility cycle represents perfect harmony with the land. Not all beans are created equal when it comes to soil improvement. Amish farmers particularly value scarlet runner beans and certain pole bean varieties for their exceptional nitrogen-fixing abilities. These varieties often become treasured heirlooms with seeds passed down through generations. My grandfather's pole beans have been feeding our soil for 6 generations, one farmer explained while checking the purple-streaked beans growing up wooden trellises. They feed our families twice, first with beans on our table, then by feeding next year's crops. Garlic to ward off garden. Invaders, vampires aren't the only creatures that fear garlic. Many garden pests feel the same way, which is why garlic has been a staple in Amish gardens for generations. Those neat rows of garlic you'll spot in early spring aren't just for cooking. They're a living security system. The strong-smelling compounds in garlic, primarily allicin and sulfur, act as natural repellents to a surprising range of pests. Aphids, spider mites, Japanese beetles, and even larger animals like deer and rabbits all avoid areas where garlic grows. For the Amish, who prefer working with nature rather than against it, garlic represents the perfect pest control solution. In traditional Amish gardens across Pennsylvania and Ohio, you'll notice garlic strategically planted near fruit trees and roses, plants that are particularly vulnerable to insect damage. This companion planting technique creates what some Amish farmers call protection zones that significantly reduce pest problems without any sprays or chemicals. The timing of garlic planting follows the natural rhythms of the seasons. Amish gardeners typically plant garlic cloves in fall, allowing them to develop strong roots before winter sets in. By spring, when most pests emerge hungry and ready to feed, the garlic is already sending out its protective scent, creating an invisible shield around nearby plants. A study by Cornell University found that gardens using garlic as companion plants showed a 60 to 70% reduction in aphid populations on neighboring roses. The Amish have understood this relationship long before scientists documented it, passing down this knowledge through practical demonstrations rather than textbooks. Beyond pest protection, garlic serves multiple purposes in Amish communities. After harvest, some cloves become seed stock for next year's crop, while the rest provide flavor for the famous Amish pickles, relishes, and preserves that help families eat well through winter months. "Good garlic keeps the bugs away and the doctor away," goes one Amish saying, acknowledging both the plant's garden benefits and its well-known health properties. This dual-purpose nature makes garlic particularly valuable in a culture that prizes efficiency and natural solutions. The Amish harvest garlic with careful attention to timing. They wait until the lower leaves begin to brown, then gently dig the bulbs and hang them to cure in well-ventilated sheds. This traditional curing process ensures garlic stays fresh for months of cooking use while preserving the strongest cloves for replanting. Chamomile to strengthen garden health. Stroll through an Amish herb garden in midsummer and you'll likely spot delicate white flowers with bright yellow centers swaying in the breeze. Chamomile might seem like just a pretty plant for tea, but Amish gardeners know it serves a much greater purpose. It's medicine for both people and plants. Chamomile contains natural compounds that act as antibiotics for the plant world. When grown near other crops, it helps prevent damaging fungal and bacterial diseases that can wipe out entire harvests. The Amish have observed this protective effect for generations, carefully integrating chamomile throughout their gardens as living plant doctors. The relationship between chamomile and other plants represents what the Amish call good neighborliness, the idea that the right plants placed together help each other thrive. Cabbage family crops like broccoli and cauliflower grow noticeably healthier when chamomile grows nearby, developing stronger resistance to common diseases. While modern agriculture might reach for fungicides at the first sign of trouble, Amish farmers rely on preventative plant partnerships. Research from Michigan State University recently confirmed the science behind this traditional practice, finding that chamomile releases compounds that trigger nearby plants to activate their natural immune responses. Chamomile isn't fussy about where it grows, making it ideal for tucking between rows of vegetables or along garden edges. Its shallow roots don't compete with food crops, and its pleasant scent actually repels many destructive insects while attracting beneficial pollinators. After a long day working in fields and gardens, Amish families often enjoy a cup of chamomile tea made from their own harvest. This creates what one elderly gardener called the perfect circle: plants that care for other plants, then care for the people who tend them. To maximize chamomile's garden benefits, Amish growers often let some plants flower freely while harvesting others for tea. The remaining flowers go to seed, ensuring next year's plants will appear without any extra work. This self-sustaining cycle embodies the Amish approach to agriculture: work with natural systems rather than constantly fighting against them. Amish gardeners often joke that chamomile gets along with everyone except the doctor, a playful reference to both its companion planting benefits and its reputation for reducing the need for medical care when consumed as a calming tea. Yarrow to enhance soil vitality. That feathery leaf plant with flat clusters of tiny white flowers might look like a common wildflower, but in Amish agriculture, yarrow serves as a powerful soil improver and plant health booster. For centuries, this unassuming herb has been deliberately cultivated alongside food crops throughout Amish communities. Yarrow's greatest garden talent is its ability to accumulate nutrients, particularly copper, potassium, and phosphorus. Its deep spreading roots mine these vital minerals from subsoil layers that most vegetables can't reach. When yarrow leaves and stems are cut and used as mulch, these nutrients become available to nearby plants, creating naturally balanced soil without purchased fertilizers. In Lancaster County, particularly during summer garden tours, visitors often notice yarrow growing strategically around orchard trees and berry bushes. This traditional placement helps fruit-bearing plants access a steady supply of trace minerals that improve both yield and flavor. A 15-year study by sustainable agriculture researchers found that apple trees mulched with yarrow trimmings produced fruit with 23% higher vitamin content. The natural pest management properties of yarrow make it especially valuable to the Amish, who prefer avoiding chemical interventions. The plant produces aromatic compounds that confuse and repel destructive insects while simultaneously attracting predatory insects that feed on garden pests. This creates what biologists call a beneficial insect reservoir, essentially a home base for garden helpers. Yarrow demonstrates remarkable resilience during drought conditions, staying green and productive when many plants struggle. Amish farmers have noted that vegetables growing near established yarrow plants show better drought tolerance, likely due to the herb's ability to improve soil structure and water retention. In traditional folk medicine, yarrow earned the nickname woundwort for its ability to stop bleeding and fight infection. This same protective quality extends to plant health. Yarrow appears to boost neighboring plants' resistance to disease through complex soil interactions only recently being studied by agricultural scientists. A lighthearted saying among older Amish gardeners warns, "Plant yarrow near your door and the doctor won't visit anymore." While meant as humor about yarrow's medicinal uses, it reflects the plant's genuine contribution to overall garden health and productivity. Radishes to break up tough soil. Tough, compacted soil can ruin a garden faster than almost anything else. Roots can't spread, water can't drain properly, and plants struggle to access nutrients. Instead of bringing in expensive equipment, the Amish use a simple, fast-growing vegetable to solve this problem naturally: radishes. These spicy little root vegetables might seem like an odd choice for soil improvement, but their ability to punch through hard ground makes them perfect soil conditioners. The Amish plant certain varieties specifically for this purpose, often choosing larger daikon or winter radishes rather than the small round ones commonly found in grocery stores. When radish roots grow, they create channels deep into compacted soil layers. After harvest, or if deliberately left to decompose in place, these channels remain, allowing air, water, and beneficial organisms to penetrate previously impenetrable ground. This natural aeration can extend 2 feet or more below the surface. In early spring, Amish farmers often broadcast radish seeds in areas scheduled for later planting. By the time the main crop season arrives, the radishes have already done the hard work of opening up the soil structure. This timing takes advantage of spring rains to help the radishes grow quickly with minimal effort. A study from Iowa State University found that fields pre-treated with radish plantings showed 47% better water infiltration compared to untreated fields. For Amish farmers working without irrigation systems, this improved water absorption can make the difference between crop success and failure during dry periods. The rapid growth of radishes provides another benefit. They quickly outcompete weeds. An Amish gardener in Ohio explained this advantage with typical understated humor. Radishes sprint while weeds are still tying their shoes. This head start means fewer weeds establish themselves, reducing the need for weeding later. The Amish don't waste anything in the garden. While some radishes are grown purely for soil improvement, many are harvested for the table as well. The roots add a spicy crunch to salads and pickles, while the leafy tops can be cooked as nutritious greens. Even those left to decompose in the soil provide valuable organic matter as they break down. Traditional Amish farming wisdom passes this technique from generation to generation, with grandparents teaching children that the radish does the work that the plow and the shovel would rather you did yourself. Borage to attract pollinators. Blue star-shaped flowers nodding on fuzzy stems might not look like agricultural powerhouses, but the Amish know better. Borage, a Mediterranean herb with striking blue blooms, serves as one of their most effective tools for boosting pollination throughout the growing season. Pollination creates the fruits and vegetables we eat, but it doesn't happen automatically. It requires insects, particularly bees, to move pollen between flowers. Without enough pollinators, crop yields can drop dramatically. In fact, agricultural research shows that inadequate pollination can reduce vegetable harvests by up to 75% in certain crops. The Amish solution to this challenge grows in strategic locations throughout their gardens and farms. Borage produces abundant nectar that attracts bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects in remarkable numbers. A single borage plant in bloom can draw pollinators that then visit hundreds of nearby vegetable flowers, significantly increasing fruit production. During Pennsylvania's warm summer days, borage plants in Amish gardens literally hum with activity as bees busily collect the sweet nectar. This steady stream of pollinators doesn't just visit the borage, they move throughout the garden, stopping at tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, and other vegetables that need pollination to produce food. The Amish have observed that strawberry patches with nearby borage often produce larger, more uniformly shaped berries. This observation has been confirmed by research showing up to 35% yield increases in strawberry fields with appropriate pollinator habitat nearby. One of borage's greatest advantages is its long flowering period. While many flowers bloom for just a short time, borage continues producing blossoms for months, creating a reliable food source for pollinators throughout the growing season. The Amish take advantage of this by staggering plantings every few weeks for continuous bloom. A favorite saying among older Amish gardeners captures this plant's impact perfectly. A garden without borage is like a party with no guests. The comparison highlights how borage brings life and activity to growing spaces that might otherwise lack essential pollinator visits. The blue flowers aren't just functional, they're also edible, with a surprising cucumber-like flavor. Amish families sometimes add them to salads or freeze them in ice cubes for special occasions, making borage both useful and beautiful in their self-sufficient gardens. Tansy, to create natural barriers. Golden button-like flowers standing tall on fern-like foliage make tansy one of the most distinctive plants in traditional Amish landscapes. This ancient herb creates living fences that protect gardens from a surprising range of unwanted visitors, from insects to larger animals. The pungent scent released by tansy's leaves and flowers repels many destructive pests, including cucumber beetles, squash bugs, and Japanese beetles, all serious threats to vegetable production. For the Amish, who avoid chemical pesticides, these aromatic compounds provide natural protection that aligns perfectly with their sustainable farming philosophy. Tansy's pest-repelling properties come from high concentrations of thujone and camphor, natural compounds that confuse and deter insects. Tests at the University of Kentucky found that gardens bordered with tansy showed 65% fewer cucumber beetles compared to unprotected control gardens. For Amish farmers growing pickling cucumbers as an important cash crop, this natural protection translates directly into more reliable harvests. The strategic placement of tansy around Amish properties reveals generations of accumulated knowledge. You'll often spot it surrounding garden perimeters, planted near barn doors and flanking chicken coops, all locations where pest management is particularly important. This purposeful positioning maximizes tansy's benefits without wasting valuable growing space. Tansy grows as a perennial in most climates, returning year after year without replanting. This reliability makes it especially valuable in Amish communities, where self-sufficiency and long-term planning are cultural cornerstones. Once established, tansy stands can remain effective for decades with minimal care. While valuable as pest control, tansy comes with an important caution that Amish gardeners always share when discussing this powerful plant. It should never be consumed and should be handled with respect. As one elder in the community put it, tansy works because it's strong medicine. Not all medicine is meant for people. The bright yellow flowers serve a purpose beyond pest repellent. They attract parasitic wasps and other beneficial insects that prey on garden pests, creating a double layer of protection. These beneficial insects establish colonies near the tansy, but hunt throughout the garden, providing natural pest control services without any human intervention. When asked why tansy remains so common in their communities despite newer options being available, an Amish farmer answered simply, "Why change what hasn't failed in 400 years?" Dill to enhance garden protection. Many people know dill as the herb that makes pickles taste like pickles, but for generations, Amish farmers have grown this feathery-leaved plant for reasons that go far beyond its culinary uses. Dill serves as a vital part of their natural pest management system. The delicate umbrella-shaped flower clusters of dill attract some of the garden's most helpful insects, particularly predatory wasps. Unlike the wasps that crash picnics and build nests under eaves, these smaller varieties aren't interested in humans. They're hunting for caterpillars, aphids, and other pests that damage vegetable crops. Throughout Amish country in Ohio and Pennsylvania, dill grows alongside cucumbers, creating a partnership that benefits both plants. The dill attracts beneficial insects that protect the cucumbers from pests, while the cucumbers provide some shade for dill's shallow roots during the hottest part of summer. A research team from Purdue University studied this traditional companion planting method and discovered something remarkable. Vegetable gardens with established dill plants had 49% fewer aphid problems compared to gardens without dill. The wasps attracted by dill flowers can detect pest insects from remarkable distances, essentially patrolling the entire garden from their dill home base. The timing of dill's growth cycle creates perfect season-long protection. An early spring planting will flower just as the first generation of garden pests emerges. If allowed to self-seed, new dill plants continue appearing throughout the growing season, providing continuous protection until frost. Dill also helps vegetables directly. Cucumber plants growing near dill often produce more flavorful fruits with better texture. This quality improvement becomes particularly important for the Amish, who rely on cucumber sales for income during summer months. The multifunctional nature of dill makes it especially valuable in Amish gardens, where every plant must earn its place. Beyond pest control, dill seeds provide spice for breads and pickles, while the feathery leaves flavor fish dishes, potato salads, and soups. One elderly Amish gardener summarized dill's importance with a smile. "Without dill, the bugs eat the cucumbers. Without cucumbers, we can't make pickles. Without pickles, winter meals are sad meals." This simple chain of cause and effect explains why you'll rarely find an Amish garden without dill's lacy foliage swaying somewhere in the breeze. Sunflowers to shield delicate crops. Towering sunflowers with their cheerful yellow blooms aren't just for show in Amish country. These giant plants serve as living windbreaks, creating protected zones where more delicate vegetables can grow safely sheltered from damaging winds. Strong winds can devastate gardens in multiple ways, breaking stems, tearing leaves, drying out soil, and preventing pollinators from doing their important work. In areas like central Ohio and northern Indiana, where Amish communities farm flat, open land, wind protection becomes essential for maximum harvests. Rows of sunflowers planted along the prevailing wind direction can reduce wind speed by up to 75% in the protected zone behind them. This dramatic effect extends for a distance equal to about 10 times the height of the sunflowers. For those towering 8-foot varieties often seen on Amish farms, that means protection for an 80-foot stretch of garden, enough space for several vegetable beds. The massive root systems of sunflowers provide benefits beyond wind protection. They reach deep into subsoil layers, breaking up compaction and improving drainage. When the growing season ends, these roots decompose, leaving channels that increase water penetration and create pathways for earthworms and beneficial soil organisms. Watching children from Amish communities helping with sunflower planting reveals another practical advantage. They're easy to grow. The large seeds can be handled by even small hands, making sunflowers an ideal teaching plant for passing agricultural knowledge to the next generation. As summer progresses, the sunflower heads fill with nutritious seeds that help feed both people and livestock. Chickens particularly benefit from sunflower seeds, which add healthy fats and proteins to their diet and produce eggs with deeper yellow yolks. A Pennsylvania agricultural study found that vegetable plots protected by sunflower windbreaks yielded 23% more produce than unprotected plots. For Amish families practicing subsistence farming, this significant increase can mean the difference between having enough food stored for winter and coming up short. The Amish particularly appreciate how the tall sunflowers naturally track the sun's movement throughout the day. As one farmer noted with a chuckle, sunflowers never need to be told which way to look. They find the light all on their own. We could learn something from that. Nasturtiums to distract garden pests. Bright orange and yellow flowers sprawling through Amish vegetable gardens serve a clever purpose beyond adding beauty. Nasturtiums act as sacrificial plants, intentionally attracting certain pests away from valuable food crops. This strategy represents one of the oldest forms of organic pest management practiced for generations in Amish communities. Aphids, squash bugs, and cucumber beetles find nasturtiums irresistible, often choosing them over nearby vegetables. Many commercial farmers might reach for chemical sprays when seeing insects, but the Amish take a different approach. They deliberately plant nasturtiums to concentrate pests in manageable areas away from food crops. This method works through natural chemistry. Nasturtiums produce compounds that certain insect pests can detect from surprising distances. When given a choice between nasturtiums and vegetables, many pests choose the nasturtiums, leaving the food crops relatively untouched. Agricultural researchers at Michigan State University documented this effect, finding that vegetable plots with nasturtium borders had 38% fewer aphid colonies on main crops compared to control plots. The nasturtiums essentially acted as insect magnets, creating a protective buffer around the vegetables. Unlike many ornamental flowers, nasturtiums thrive on neglect. They prefer poor soil with minimal water and fertilizer, conditions that would stunt most garden plants. This self-sufficient nature makes them perfect for busy Amish gardens, where every minute of labor must be used wisely. The pest-trapping benefits come with delicious bonuses. Every part of nasturtiums is edible, with a pleasant peppery flavor similar to watercress. The flowers brighten up salads, the leaves add zip to sandwiches, and even the seed pods can be pickled as a substitute for capers. Amish gardeners typically plant nasturtiums around the perimeter of vegetable beds and between rows of particularly vulnerable crops like cabbage, broccoli, and squash. This strategic placement creates pest checkpoints that intercept insects before they reach the food plants. While offering garden protection, nasturtiums simultaneously attract important pollinators like bees and butterflies. This dual role, drawing in beneficial insects while distracting harmful ones, exemplifies the balanced approach to gardening that has sustained Amish communities for centuries. The Amish have a saying about nasturtiums that captures their cheerful efficiency. They dress up like party guests but work like farmhands. This combination of beauty and function explains why these bright flowers have remained garden standards in Amish communities long after many modern alternatives became available. Oregano to protect ground moisture. Step into an Amish garden during midsummer and you might notice the ground between vegetable rows is rarely bare. Low-growing plants often carpet these spaces, and oregano frequently plays a starring role in this ground-covering ensemble. This aromatic herb does much more than flavor tomato sauce. It serves as living mulch that preserves precious soil moisture. The spreading growth habit of oregano creates a natural living blanket that shades the soil surface from direct sun. This shade dramatically reduces evaporation, allowing the ground to stay moist days longer after rainfall or irrigation. For Amish gardeners who often rely on rainwater rather than wells or municipal systems, this moisture conservation translates directly into better harvests. Tests conducted at Pennsylvania State University's Agricultural Extension found that garden beds with oregano ground cover retain 62% more soil moisture during hot weather compared to bare soil. This significant difference helps explain why Amish gardens often remain productive even during dry spells that affect neighboring properties. The aromatic oils that give oregano its distinctive smell serve another crucial purpose. They naturally repel many destructive garden pests. Cabbage moths, bean beetles, and tomato hornworms all avoid areas where oregano grows, giving vegetables natural protection without any sprays or powders. Oregano's low-maintenance nature makes it particularly valuable in Amish communities where labor efficiency matters greatly. Once established, this perennial herb requires almost no care while continuing to spread gradually each year. A single planting can provide ground cover benefits for a decade or more. During community work days, when Amish families gather to help one another with larger garden projects, oregano often becomes a gift exchanged between households. Small divisions from established plants quickly take root in new locations, spreading the benefits throughout the community. The culinary value of oregano provides yet another reason for its popularity. This herb that works so hard in the garden eventually makes its way to Amish tables, adding Mediterranean flavor to winter meals from food dried during summer abundance. An elderly Amish gardener from Indiana shared a clever observation about oregano's dual purpose. It keeps the ground cool and the food warm. This simple expression captures how oregano transitions from utilitarian garden worker to welcome kitchen guest, exemplifying the waste-nothing approach central to Amish agriculture. Peas to prepare winter soil. The earliest green shoots poking through spring soil in Amish gardens often belong to pea plants. While many gardeners grow peas simply for their sweet harvest, Amish farmers value them equally for their remarkable soil-improving abilities. These unassuming plants lay the groundwork for garden success all year long. Like their cousins, the beans, peas form partnerships with soil bacteria to capture nitrogen from the air and convert it to plant food. This natural fertilizer production happens inside small nodules that develop on pea roots, creating tiny nitrogen factories throughout the soil. By the time summer crops are ready for planting, pea-enriched soil contains significantly higher nutrient levels. Agricultural research has quantified what Amish farmers have known through observation. A good stand of peas can add up to 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre to the soil. That's comparable to applying several bags of commercial fertilizer, but achieved completely naturally and at a fraction of the cost. The timing of pea planting aligns perfectly with the Amish agricultural calendar. These cool weather crops thrive in early spring when temperatures would damage heat-loving vegetables. By growing peas during this otherwise unused time, Amish gardeners effectively extend their productive growing season by several weeks. Deep in Amish country, community seed collections often contain multiple pea varieties developed specifically for their soil-building qualities. Some produce abundant food for the table, while others focus primarily on creating lush green material for soil improvement. Many families grow both types, maximizing both food production and soil health. The cold hardiness of peas provides another advantage in Amish gardens. Seeds can be planted directly in the garden as soon as soil can be worked in spring, often weeks before the last frost date. This early start gives them a head start on weeds, reducing the need for weeding while simultaneously improving soil structure through their extensive root systems. After harvest, Amish farmers use a practice called chopping in, cutting pea plants at ground level and turning the green material into the soil rather than removing it. This technique returns maximum organic matter and nitrogen to the garden, creating ideal conditions for summer crops like corn, tomatoes, and squash. An Amish farmer watching spring peas unfurl their first tendrils remarked, "Peas earn their keep twice, first on your plate and then in your soil." This practical wisdom explains why you'll find peas in nearly every traditional Amish garden from Ohio to Pennsylvania. Buckwheat to combat weeds. The white-flowered carpet that occasionally covers entire fields in Amish country isn't just for show. Buckwheat, a fast-growing grain with powerful weed-suppressing abilities, serves as a secret weapon in the continual battle against unwanted plants. Its rapid growth helps Amish farmers maintain clean fields without chemical herbicides. When planted densely, buckwheat sprouts and grows so quickly that most weeds simply can't compete. Within days of emergence, the broad buckwheat leaves form a living canopy that shades the soil surface, preventing weed seeds from receiving the light they need to germinate. This natural suppression can reduce weed populations by up to 75%, according to University of Cornell research. Throughout Lancaster County and other Amish farming regions, buckwheat often fills the gaps between main crop cycles. A field that produced early spring vegetables might be planted with buckwheat during midsummer, then replanted with fall crops once the buckwheat has done its weed-suppressing work. The benefits extend beyond weed control. Buckwheat's extensive, fine root system excels at accessing phosphorus, a vital plant nutrient that often remains locked in forms unavailable to most crops. As buckwheat grows, it converts this phosphorus into plant-available forms, essentially mining the soil for nutrients that will later benefit other crops. Beekeepers within Amish communities particularly value buckwheat plantings. The abundant white flowers produce distinctive dark honey with a robust flavor that commands premium prices. This honey production creates another income stream from fields that would otherwise sit unused between main crops. When the buckwheat reaches full flower, Amish farmers typically mow it down and work it into the soil as green manure. This practice returns valuable organic matter to the land while continuing to suppress weeds as the plant material decomposes. The entire growing cycle from seed to soil incorporation takes just 30 to 40 days, making buckwheat one of the fastest soil-improving crops available. The pollinator-friendly nature of buckwheat aligns perfectly with the Amish focus on working with natural systems rather than against them. A buckwheat field in full bloom buzzes with beneficial insects that remain in the area even after the buckwheat is incorporated, providing pest control services to subsequent crops. One Amish farmer summed up buckwheat's value with practical humor. It grows like we wish vegetables would and dies when we wish weeds would. This perfect combination of vigorous growth and easy management explains why buckwheat remains a cornerstone of natural weed control in Amish agriculture. Rue to guard chicken coops. Chickens are essential to Amish farm life, providing eggs, meat, and pest control services. Protecting these valuable birds from parasites and predators becomes a top priority. That's where rue, a bitter-scented herb with blue-green leaves, becomes an unexpected hero in Amish agriculture. The strong-smelling oils in rue naturally repel many common chicken parasites, including mites, lice, and fleas. These tiny pests can severely reduce egg production and even kill young birds if left unchecked. Traditional Amish farmers plant rue around chicken coops and run areas, creating a living barrier that helps keep their flocks healthy without chemical treatments. A poultry study from Ohio State University confirmed the effectiveness of this traditional practice, finding that chicken houses with rue planted nearby had 58% fewer external parasites on birds compared to control groups. For the Amish, who generally avoid chemical pesticides, this natural protection proves invaluable to maintaining productive flocks. The pest-repelling properties extend beyond parasites to larger threats as well. Many rodents dislike the scent of rue and avoid areas where it grows densely. Since mice and rats can spread disease and steal feed, this natural deterrent helps maintain both flock health and farm efficiency. Behind most Amish homes, you'll often find dried bundles of rue hanging in barns, coops, and storage areas. These aromatic bunches provide continued protection even after the growing season ends, releasing their distinctive scent gradually throughout winter months. The plant's bitter compounds serve another purpose. They keep chickens from pecking at and killing the plants themselves. Unlike many herbs that chickens enjoy eating, rue's unpalatable nature ensures it survives even in areas where birds roam freely. This self-preservation quality makes rue particularly valuable in free-range poultry systems common on Amish farms. Rue's distinctive blue-green foliage and yellow flowers don't just provide practical benefits, they also add beauty to utilitarian farm spaces. This dual-purpose nature exemplifies the Amish approach to agriculture, where even protective plants should contribute visually to well-kept farm grounds. Respect for rue's power runs deep in Amish communities. Elders often caution young farmers about rue's potency with a saying that translates roughly to, "Handle rue with care, but pests will handle it with fear." This practical wisdom acknowledges that while strongly protective, rue requires thoughtful management like any powerful farm tool. Mint to control. Garden boundaries. The refreshing scent of mint might remind most people of candy or tea, but for generations of Amish gardeners, it represents something entirely different. A living boundary marker that controls invasive weeds and repels destructive pests. This humble herb with spreading habits becomes a valuable ally in maintaining productive gardens. Mint's aggressive growth, often considered a nuisance in ornamental gardens, becomes an asset in Amish agricultural systems. When planted along garden edges, mint quickly forms dense barriers that prevent grass and weeds from creeping into vegetable beds. The underground stems, or rhizomes, spread rapidly, creating a living wall that maintains itself with minimal human intervention. Field tests at Michigan State University's agricultural program found that established mint borders reduced encroachment from lawn grasses by up to 85% compared to unprotected garden edges. For Amish families maintaining large vegetable gardens without mechanical tillers or herbicides, this natural boundary saves countless hours of weeding labor. Beyond weed suppression, mint provides valuable pest protection. The strong scented oils naturally repel ants, cabbage moths, flea beetles, and even mice. Amish gardeners strategically plant mint near cabbage family crops and around storage buildings to create zones that many pests simply avoid. The cooling effect of mint extends beyond its taste. Dense mint growth actually reduces soil temperatures in the hottest part of summer, creating slightly cooler microclimates that benefit nearby plants during extreme heat. Temperature measurements in Amish gardens have recorded differences of up to 5 degrees Fahrenheit in soil covered by mint compared to bare ground. Practical wisdom about mint's vigorous nature passes through generations in Amish communities. Young farmers learn to contain this enthusiastic plant by planting it in buried buckets with the bottom removed or in trenches lined with stone. These physical barriers keep mint in its proper place while allowing it to form effective boundaries. The culinary uses provide bonus harvests from these functional plantings. Amish families dry substantial quantities of mint for winter teas that help treat minor digestive issues and colds. Fresh leaves flavor summer drinks and desserts during the growing season. When asked why mint remains such a staple in their gardens, despite its sometimes aggressive nature, an Amish gardener replied with characteristic practical wisdom, "A plant that tries too hard to grow is telling you something about its strength. We just need to give that strength proper direction." These 20 powerful plants show how the Amish have mastered working with nature instead of against it. Their centuries-old wisdom reminds us that sometimes the best solutions are growing right beneath our feet. Simple, sustainable, and incredibly effective.